Hey guys, I hope you're doing great today. Well guys, our CICD journey have been great so far because we have covered a lot of stuff that is required for a DevOps engineer to know about CICD. First of all, we discussed about what is CICD and what is the difference between CI, CD, and in CD we also further discussed the difference between continuous deployment and continuous delivery. CI, which stands for continuous integration, is related with the code building, compiling, and testing part. So we have a pipeline that is divided into two major portions, or we can say that two major parts. One part of the pipeline is related with code building and testing. The second part is actually the code deployment. So that is actually CI. CI is code building, code testing, code compilation. Any changes happening in the code are they come under the umbrella of CI, continuous integration. And when we have to deploy that code to our deployment environment, to our deployment VM, to our deployment environment on the cloud like AWS or Azure or GCP, then this part is CD, which is continuous deployment or continuous delivery. In addition to that, we also discussed about the difference, slight difference, but it can be huge for large projects, which is the difference between CD, I mean to say continuous deployment versus continuous delivery. Continuous deployment is fully automatic, and in continuous delivery, a little human intervention. I mean, my intervention or your mouse click would be required to finally deploy the code. So that was a quick revision. You can see that I have this CICD playlist that has been created for you guys, and we discovered what is CICD? CICD tutorial for beginners. We also discussed about CICD pipeline in detail, every step, like code building, testing, and also integration test, unit test, and code deployment. And after that, we also talked about 10 best CICD tools and 40 CICD important interview questions and answers. And after that, on LinkedIn, I asked about the CICD tool that we should cover in our CICD playlist. And one of my fellows and other people also suggested that we should go with GitHub Actions. And this is actually a two-part that is actually lab session, in which in the first session we discussed about the basics of GitHub Actions, the terms that are used in a GitHub Actions CI/CD pipeline. And in the next part, we also expanded our pipeline, and also we discussed about GitHub Hosted Runners, and we also created a self-hosted GitHub runner. We had our VM on the cloud platform like Google Cloud Platform, and we configured a self-hosted runner on GCP. And after that, we deployed the pipeline and we deployed our Node application on a dev VM, and that was actually a dev environment. So as a DevOps engineer who is beginning his or her career in DevOps, I hope that that would be enough to know about CI/CD in the early phase. So we will have a lot of other CI/CD projects coming on, but for now we are going to discuss the basics of GitLab CI, and then in our DevOps Roadmap 2024 we are proceeding with Terraform in the upcoming lectures, because we have to wind up all these tools so that we have a full-fledged DevOps journey in which we began with Linux. We learned about Linux. We covered 75 plus commands on Linux, and then Docker, and then Git. We had courses created on this channel. So for subscribers like you guys, first of all, I thank you a lot for supporting me so far in this journey. So you saw that we have created courses, we are working as a team together, and there would be a small course of CICD as well. And then we are going to proceed with Terraform and Kubernetes as well. So other CIC projects would be coming on this channel, and especially in this CICD playlist which I have created. And today we are going to discuss the basics of GitLab CI. So first of all, you must know that GitLab and GitHub both work on Git, and they are actually, we have code on the cloud. Okay, we would have our repositories, we would have our code base on the cloud like GitHub. There is a minor difference, I would say, that in between GitHub and GitLab. So if you know GitHub Actions CIC pipelines, I'm pretty sure that you can cover GitLab CI real quick, because the terminologies, the secrets, the runners, everything is almost aligned, but there would be a lot of difference between GitHub Actions and GitLab CI, because both are different platforms. But the terms for me or for you as a DevOps engineers, those terms are really, I mean, really same, that we can understand real quick. We have runners, self-hosted runner known as GitHub hosted runner, and here we will have GitLab hosted runner. We can configure our self-hosted runner on GitHub Actions. We can also configure self-hosted runner on GitLab. So the pipelines are almost the same. The phases are just like build, test, and deploy, and the pipelines are also in YAML format. So if you know GitHub Actions, I'm pretty sure that you can learn GitLab CI real quick. So in this lecture, which would be an introduction only of GitLab CI, because most of the people say that, the DevOps experts say that in the beginning you must at least know one CI/CD tool you have a strong grip on. So it is just an introduction. If you like GitLab CI, the purpose of creating this video is that if you like GitLab CI, you must create a free account on GitLab. It is a free account, and you can test, you can run free CI/CD pipelines on the available GitLab hosted runners, just to interact with how GitLab CI works. So let's get started and know what we have in GitLab CI. So first of all, you can create a new project. You can see I have a couple of projects. These are just dummy, a testing environment that I have created with my personal email. And you can see there are a couple of projects I have that are just to test and deploy how things work on GitLab CI. So in order to create a new project, you can click on this plus sign and you can create a new project or repository. The project means the repository, a code repository. You can create new group and new snippet, but for now we don't have to learn everything in this lecture. We are going to discuss the things or the points that are related with CICD only. We would be going to CICD specific, and we have to limit ourselves to CICD because it may become overwhelming for some of you guys, that there are a lot of things. What should I learn? No, you should. So you should. I think, in my opinion, we should limit ourselves to CICD only, and we will discuss only the things that are related with CICD. So in GitLab CICD, we have repositories. In GitLab, we can also create branches, the main branch, the feature branch, everything just like works as GitHub Actions. And this is actually a new project. That's how we can create a new project. And you can see create a blank project from template and import project. That is also one of the beautiful things of GitLab CI, that we can also import projects from TeamCity, from Circle CI, from GitHub Actions. And for instance, I will show you that this is the project Sharks Node, and I have the same project on GitHub as well, and I imported this project from GitHub. So the import is simple and it really works like a charm. You have to just provide the username, password, so that you can import everything that you have on GitHub or Circle CI or TeamCity, the other CI/CD tools, and you will have that project on GitLab. So if you have your code on GitHub, suppose you have your testing, you have your pipelines, and you just want to play with GitLab CI. All right, man, let's now explore GitLab CI. So that is actually the beautiful thing, that you can also import project from GitHub Actions, GitHub or TeamCity. Or so we can create a new blank project, we can create from template, and we can also import the project. For instance, if I click on the import project, you can see the history that I have imported this project from GitHub. So I have this repository on GitHub as well. You can see here, this is my Sharks Node repository on GitHub. So I imported it from GitHub to GitLab. So you can use the import option, or we will create a new blank project just for CI/CD class. I will create a blank project and I will see GitHub tutorial lab, and this would be the project URL, and this would be my project slug. I mean, that would be a complete URL of my project. And this is my visibility. Either I want to have this private or public, so I will make it public. And just like we have readme in GitHub, we have this in GitLab as well. So I will just create this project, and now I have this project created, and you can see I have one commit, one main branch. Okay, we can also create other branches as well. So we have this one main branch and readme, which is the default readme, and to get started with GitLab. So now for this project, you can see we have this build option to build our CI/CD pipelines for this project. But before that, before building our pipelines, we have to see a couple of settings of CI/CD. Just at the bottom, you can go at the bottom of your project. Okay, I will scroll down, and at the bottom there are settings. And now I will scroll further, and you can see that I have these CICD environment settings, and you will find everything regarding your CICD settings here. And expand pipelines, you can check the options here, but for now we are going to see the runners. Okay, now we have our project runners. Like you can see, I have created these runners, but now these have been stopped, so I can use the runners, instance runners of GitLab. But for using GitLab runners, I have to check this option, this so that I have to enable instance runners for this project, so that this repository should use the instance runners of GitLab. So I have these runners online. These are actually the VMs. We can also study about these runners. I will just open it in a new tab, and you can see there are a lot of information. There is a lot of information about runners and how we can use the runners. There is a tier plan in which we have premier and ultimate runners, and we can have GitLab and self-managed and GitLab dedicated runners. So you can, if you want to read out, it is a good read, and you will have everything information about your runners. Okay, and after that we can also create our own GitLab hosted runner using this new project runner. I will click on it and I can add my own project runner. For instance, DevOps Molvi, just like we had in GitHub Actions, and this is for my pipeline for CICD, and I will just click on create runner. Now I will get the commands and further instructions how I can register a runner. This is just like the same thing we had in GitHub Actions. For Linux, I will have these steps and I can execute these commands on my VM or on my uh, Google Cloud instance. So I will I will have my self-hosted runner registered with GitLab. But for this lecture, we are going to use our GitLab CI/CD runners, and for that we have to enable instance runners for this project. I will just pause this runner since it is not have been configured completely, so I will pause it. And if I don't want to have this runner, I can remove the runner as well. So if I want to remove it, that just simply click on remove runner and it will remove it, since we have not configured it completely. And for this tutorial we are going to use this the instance we are going to use the instance runners that are available from GitLab. So these are all runners. Now, other things that we can explore about CI/CD, about variables, we can have our variables stored here. You can see I can create the variables for let me share another project, and I have already created a couple of variables here in Sharks Node repository, and in settings CICD, and we have, that's how we can expand and we can have the variables in the variable part of CICD. Okay, so that's how you can create variables that would be used in our CICD pipeline. So these are a couple of settings that we must know about GitLab CICD. And now after that, we can go to the build option to see if we have any pipelines on our GitLab CICD. And we can start with a sample gitlab-ci.yml file. So this is actually the pipeline on GitLab, but we have a lot of templates, like we have the template for Docker, Django, and we have for Flutter and Go. So I have this sample pipeline, and you can see there are a couple of jobs, and we have this build job in which the stage is built, and just a simple command that will display the user login of GitLab. And we have these test jobs, and this is just to get in, just to have some interaction with GitLab CI/CD. So I will just commit the changes, and now you can see that my pipeline has been triggered, and there are actually three jobs. You can see build, test, and deploy. Okay, these are actually the three stages of a CI/CD pipeline. And now you can see the pipeline is running. I can click on this icon and I will have this beautiful user interface of how my pipeline looks, how the stages of my pipeline look. Now you can see the build job has been completed, and I will just click on it to see what has happened here. And just this is just beautiful, just like we have in GitHub Actions. We have the detailed console of our all jobs that have been running on our pipeline. So you can see we have this runner here, okay, and this is actually the GitLab hosted runner. So you can see that our jobs have run and the tests have been passed, and we have used the GitLab hosted runner. This is actually the runner information. And now our jobs here as per our CI/CD pipeline. So you can see the job has been succeeded, and we have used this image Ruby 3.1, and we have pulled the Docker image, and after that the environment was prepared on this runner, and after that getting source from the Git repository. So here this is our actually the workspace, and our repository was created on here on the GitLab runner, and you can see it is saying that uh, created fresh repository. So that's how we can use GitLab CI/CD pipeline. And if I go to the pipelines again, you can see all the stages have been cleared, and we can see the gitlab-ci.yml file here, and we can also edit using the pipeline editor. If I want to add, for instance, I want to add more jobs here, and then I can for instance, this is my job 3 and this is my job 4. So that's how I can add more jobs, and after that we can commit the changes to the main branch, and you can see the main branch has commits, and our pipeline has started and the build is now running. So we can use this button view pipeline, and we are able to see more tests have been added. And so for instance, our application has these unit tests, integration test, modules test, etc., regression tests. So that's how we can add more to our pipelines, and this is the YAML scientist, and that's how our pipeline starts building. And therefore we are using GitLab hosted runner to deploy our code to the production. So that was actually just a basic demo of how CI/CD works in GitLab, and you guys have noticed that everything is almost the same. If you know GitHub Actions, CI/CD, and YAML, you know well, then you can add stages, you can add tests, you can add deployments in GitLab CI/CD. So you can see we have total 6 jobs, and after each job is completed, we move, our pipeline moves toward next job, and that's how we can also click on each job to see the logs, to see the output. Now this is actually the full output of our CI/CD pipeline, and we get all the information, we get all the steps, and you can see the job was succeeded. And after that we have everything, and you can see we have this deploy prod job, and it is still running, and now it has also been completed as well. So for instance, if I go to another repository, and this is my sharks node, and we have a couple of steps here as well in the pipeline. This is my pipeline editor, and I want to show you how we can deploy node application using CI/CD in GitLab. And this is actually the version, okay, and this is the variable of my Docker image. This would be the tag. So we are using hard coded tag here, and these are actually stages, Okay, we can define stages in GitLab, and each stage is, when it is successfully completed, then we can move towards the next stage. So in the first stage, you can see we have been compiling the code and installing dependencies using package.json. And after that, you can see in this stage we have used npm install that will read package.json file, and it will start install everything including binaries, dependencies, and files that we need for our project. And after that, we have used the build docker stage, and in this stage we are building using this as our base image. This is actually the base image from GitLab CI, and I have used this command. The command is mentioned, the script actually tells us that we have some commands that we need to run. We can add as many commands as we want using this syntax, and I have used docker build command to build the image with image version as 5.0.0. We can also use GitLab variables to use dynamic releases, dynamic tags as well. But for this pipeline, I used just the hard coded uh, environment variable. Now you can see we have pushed our docker image using the push docker stage, and in which we are using this as our base image. And also we have logged in using username and password that I have shown you that we use. We store in variables in settings, and in CICD we have everything in our CICD settings. Here we have stored the variables, expanded. You can see the variables: username, password, SSH keys, SSH password, host name, username information. We can use variables to store our secrets in GitLab CI. So after that, when we are logged in, we can use the docker push command to push our image to the Docker Hub registry. And after that, we are going to run our Docker image. These are the same steps that we did on GitHub Actions, but the syntax is a bit different. So that's what we need to learn. We need to learn the YAML syntax of GitLab, which is a bit different from GitHub Actions YAML. And now you can see we are using the same image, Docker image, and we have logged in our Docker Hub to pull the Docker image, because we are going to deploy that image. And once the image is pulled, we can use this run Docker stage. This is actually the stage in which we have deployed our application into a container. So these are actually the stages that are executed one by one, and once these are executed, our node application is deployed into a container. Now you can see we have all these steps one by one, and these have been successfully completed. We installed dependencies, the build was passed, and after that the test was also passed, and after that our container was deployed. So if I want to view the full pipeline, I can click on past, and you can see this is our pipeline, and the total time that this pipeline took, and each step was completed successfully until our container was deployed. So if I want to see what's happening in each step, I can open it, and we can see that in each job, for instance, this is our job, and that was our GitLab runner, and I created a self-hosted runner using this node image. And after that, we can see npm install was run, and once it was run successfully, our job was completed. And in the final step, we can see our application was deployed using the deploy job. And now you can see That's how we executed the command, and after that, our container was successfully deployed. So that was actually, I like this the user interface. This user interface is beautiful. So you can see we are aware of each step that is executed successfully, and that was actually a basic demo of how CICD works in GitLab. And you saw that we also discussed about GitLab runners, we discussed about pipelines, jobs, pipeline editor, variables, everything that is relevant to CICD. It comes under build. Okay, so everything we want to build here is the build section, and if I want to write the code or merge request or and everything regarding repository, it is under code. So we have only discussed about the build section, and similarly we have artifacts. We can have our artifacts on GitLab, but since we are using hub.docker.com for our images or artifacts, we have been using Docker Hub for our artifacts. And here we can have our CI/CD full settings. This is really important that you must know about runners, artifacts, variables, and auto DevOps means that fully automated, if I want to have fully automated DevOps process, then I can use this utility to automate building, testing, and deploying our application using GitLab CI. So that's it, guys, for today's lecture. Actually, I wanted to give you an overview of GitLab CI. I would recommend that you must create an account on GitLab. It is free, and you can use these pipelines that are predefined, or you can use the templates of those pipelines, and you can use GitLab runners to try GitLab CI. And also you can explore the GitLab CI/CD settings here and what we have in the build section of our repository. So GitLab CI/CD is also fantastic, but I do not want you to get overwhelmed that you must know GitHub Actions, you must know GitLab CI/CD. The purpose of creating this video is that actually both GitLab and GitHub are, in my opinion, you can disagree with that, they are easy to learn. If I know GitHub Actions, I can easily work on GitLab CI. Actually, that is the motive of my this video, so that you can have two tools on your resume of CI/CD. But if you want to limit yourself to GitHub Actions only, that is your choice. But the purpose of creating this video is to motivate you or to boost your confidence that you must know at least two CI/CD tools. And we have GitHub Actions, we have GitLab CI. So that was actually a very generic or very brief overview of CI/CD in GitLab. That's it for today's lecture. I hope that you really liked it, and I would appreciate your support. In the next upcoming lecture, we are going to start with Terraform, and that is actually the most super exciting thing coming on our DevOps roadmap. We are going to build infrastructure using Terraform. And guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. We have covered CI/CD, we have covered CI/CD pipelines, we have covered the basics of GitHub Actions, we have created a fully automated CI/CD pipeline to deploy our containerized application. We have discussed 40 interview questions and answers of CI/CD, and that is the overview of GitLab CI/CD. So that's it for our CI/CD section. We are now going to discuss about Terraform in our DevOps roadmap, which is, I think, fifth tool of our DevOps tools. So I'm really super excited because we are now getting closer to Kubernetes, which is one of the biggest DevOps tools that would have immense learning. And I would really appreciate if you stick with me in this DevOps journey. and together we are going to learn a lot. Make sure to subscribe DevOps Molvi. I will watch you in our Terraform introductory lecture. Have a good one. Bye.